Hey, this is lesson 41, creative destruction and monopolies. Right. This is pretty straightforward, some of this in here, because when we have a monopoly, of course, we just draw the ordinary monopoly diagram, and this is profits, and a monopoly normally makes supernormal profits. But we argue against monopoly, don't we, that a monopoly is productively additively an X in efficiency. We can draw the monopoly diagram with economies of scale, and we can show that with economies of scale that therefore monopoly is better than perfect competition. However, the main arguments against, so we can write a pretty good essay on that. But one of the arguments that we can write is that a monopoly is sleepy in the fact that it doesn't innovate, so therefore it becomes X inefficient and doesn't come up with new products and new ideas. Okay, so that was the basic argument. Now, this guy called Joseph Schumpeter, who lived between 1863 and 1950, and actually when you read it, it's a really, really good argument, he talks about the process of creative destruction. And it gives an example of transport in the UK. So in transport in the UK, you had canals, and so the canal owners earned vast amounts of money because that's how they transported the goods at the start of the Industrial Revolution. But then they lost loads of money because the railways came along. They then made loads and loads of money, but then they lost all their money because eventually we transported all our goods by lorry on the road. And in a sense now, we've always transported goods by ships. Obviously, you have to over the water. However, the massive innovation in that area were containers. So therefore, that opened up the world to global competition because transport costs suddenly fell. So right now, even if you have a monopoly in the UK, you're always competing on a global basis. And that's really where you're going to make the money. I mean, the UK's market is only 2% of the world's total demand in the whole world. So if you can get a product that can go global, you've got 50 times, your market is 50 times bigger. So it's very much a global market, including this. I mean, I hope this goes global. I hope it's used in India, in China, and I'm doing different courses for 4 different countries. Okay, so on here then we have a case of where 70% of a firm's investment will come from its profits. So therefore it's really important that firms earn high profits, because they earn high profits and they can invest. If you think about perfect competition, right, they only make normal profit. If you think about monopolistic competition, they only make normal profits. Oligopolies clearly make large amounts of money. So in a monopoly, you're going to make high profits. If you have high profits, you can create new products. Now, I think the best way of looking at this is, what's the actual reality on the ground? And the reality is we have the Apple, and we have Samsung, Nokia and BlackBerry. So in a way, it's almost like we have an oligopoly market on a global basis. Now, they have been incredibly innovative as a company. They have transformed the way in which we communicate. And I get the impression that they still have a vision about them. Now, that was pretty down to the personalities of Apple, Steve Jobs, and in terms of what they actually went out and did. So it was this massive company, but also had a core of people at the top who were just willing to innovate, led by a guy with an amazing vision of how he saw how he saw communications evolving. So even though they're making high profits, right, you could argue that therefore that they would become sleepy down here, but they haven't. They've innovated. So creative companies. The same thing happened with Japan. They invented that when they were producing cars, they invented a process called lean production, which meant no waste, which was against the old system of production that was used by the old Ford company and that was used in the UK. I don't want to go through all of that now, but it was basically, in a sense, they only produced what was demanded in the marketplace, and that was it. But Nissan have been very, very successful at adopting this strategy. So they use lean production, which is cost minimization. Okay? So it's lean production, which is cost minimization. And when they reduce their costs, they'll also have more money available for research and development. And so if you have research and development, which is a really good thing to do, then they brought out a new car called the Nissan Leaf, which is an electric car. Now that may or may not work, but it is definitely innovative. And in terms that if you suddenly get all of your power from renewable resources, you suddenly got a car that runs incredibly cheaply, and at the same time runs on renewable energy, so it's not harming the environment at all. So it's a massive step forward, and it could be the way forward. In fact, in that case, one of the biggest things you need is you need the right infrastructure around the UK so that you can fill up your car with electricity, as it were. And there's a massive sort of psychological barrier in terms of doing that. Anyway, but that is, so I would say that companies these days are incredibly creative, and that creativity is happening all of the time. And it's probably okay. Nissan is an oligopoly market, definitely. On the world level, it is an oligopoly market, but same principle, high profits. So Schumpeter argues that actually there is a lot of competition. And I'm just thinking about Steve Jobs, Richard Branson, Bill Gates. They're all highly innovative, and even though their companies are doing really, really well, they still want to go out and create, because that's the way those individuals are made. And those individuals, America, and the UK, they've come from the UK, and that's not surprising really, because they know those environments perhaps are more entrepreneurial in the way in which they look. So perhaps it's a mixture of making high profits and then being able to invest that money. I mean, Richard Branson, he's put loads of money into renewable energy. He wants to do intergalactic travel. So he's taking the profits from his other companies to invest in new ways of doing things. So he's saying, right, this is really crucial. He's saying that the big companies make the major breakthroughs, and that is never ever going to happen in perfect competition. And those big profits are an incentive for other companies to come in and actually bring out completely new business models. And if I can use an example, there would be Ryanair. They have come in and they've completely moved into that market and completely messed it about. So that's the whole idea in terms of what you do. So we have all of this on here, right? We have this process of creative destruction. We have a really nice essay, don't we? Because we go through all the technical parts. Oh, it's productively, it's additively, it's X and efficient. But actually, at the end of the day, if you have all of this, like the Apple computer and Apple communications, then you're going to have economic efficiency. It's small, so you're using scarce resources to lead to an increase in economic welfare. And there's nowhere better than that in terms of the mobile phone and banking in Africa. Africa, in a sense, has the most advanced banking system in the world, and it's all done using mobile technology. Okay, so